Okay, let's have a chat about this one. In life, you can only truly guarantee on 3 things happening: death, taxes, and the funny. Be it pranking him John or doing it for the Vine, the funny has always been around. Hell, I'd argue it's more guaranteed than death at this point. Hence, this video's creation. I've had many people over the year use that video against me and try to explain it for why I'm the quarterback, sack and crack of the TF2 community, but Your Honor, I thought it was funny. I still do actually. And a man with any amount of self-respect wouldn't do the same thing twice. Anyway, that being said,
oh, flarkin, do it again.
Okay. As for this year's entry in the annual Lon'qudor Challenge pissing contest, we're going to be spanking, ranking, and thanking every Marvel Rivals hero on a scale from Corona Explorer to heroic ally. Yeah, that didn't work. Just start the video. Okay, so last time I did this, I was just talking about 9 sweaty men and a few of their sweaty friends, and this time we're talking about character numbers greater than 35, and so I think we're going to need just more than 2 tiers to represent them this time. An important thing that needs noting is that the Marvel Rivals universe is a sort of Frankenstein's monster of a bunch of original story threads and a grab bag goodie collection of comic book story threads. Like Daredevil's Chinese in this game or something, I wasn't really paying attention. And so, just like doing the old British handshake with the lights off, this can make the in-game bits quite hard to tell from the out-game bits. So with that established, here are the playing fields for this evening, gentlemen. Big Win is the top tier of tonight and will be exclusively populated by those who have attempted to repopulate. Yes, but not in Rivals is what I'm predicting to be the largest tier of the video and will be consistent of those who I can confirm have pushed past mid, but just not in the Marvel Rivals universe. It's a draw is for those characters who I'm just not really confident enough to make a decision on, and then can't expect to win them all is the tier for tonight's biggest losers. The kinds of characters who have never even left the spawn room, let alone those who have come within smelling distance of a choke point. Oh yeah, then there's also a no dice tier. Characters who couldn't, wouldn't, or shouldn't. All are welcome in the no dice tier. Actually, let's get that one out of the way first. You, and you. Call me crazy, but I am actually a man who has much better things to do this time than research whether a raccoon or a baby shark have visited Sesame Street before. Things I like to do with said time include, but are not limited to, throw stones at glass houses, stir the pot, and give my 2 cents. Likewise, the wise-ass whimsical tree is here because I don't care. Being an alien species of tree known as the Flora Colossus, there is no real-world species of tree I can equivalate him to, and therefore I don't know whether he reproduces asexually or not. And for similar reasons, Ultron's hanging out here because I'm no clanker spanker. I mean, he did send me a picture of his exhaust pipe covered in oil the other day, but I wasn't really... I was kind of into it, actually. Oh, yeah, and also I'm just going to put Penny in this tier as well. So Penny was confirmed to be 18 in the Marvel Rivals universe, thank goodness. As you're probably aware, though, in a lot of her incarnations, she isn't, and so I'm just not even going to go there. I'd rather have Scoutmaster Jason reteach me how to milk a cow blindfolded. Final notes before we begin. To truly answer the question of who has had their John juggled or their Jill jiggled, we are going to be drawing from all aspects of the Marvel comics. This means that sacred and non-sacred timelines are on the table, but something like the MCU is about as relevant as a salad at a Spider-Man main meetup. Some of these characters have over 80 years of history, and some of them have like 4. Trust me when I say this is the best way to do it. How should we cover this? Let's go in no particular order. We'll start with Magneto, because I actually think he's a pretty good representation of the top tier on this list. Call me shameless, I've really gotten into playing Mag recently. Nothing quite says screw you to the mixed race couple dancing on the point than 500 pounds of shrapnel being hurled at their heads. Hands down, one of the sexiest feelings in this game. Speaking of, actually, routinely throughout comic book history, Big Mag have been the relatively indifferent father of Scarlet Witch, but in more recent iterations of the characters, this has mostly been retconned. This isn't entirely the case in Marvel Rivals though, as reading Magneto's character description reveals that whilst this Wanda isn't his daughter, and this Magneto isn't Wanda's father, our Magneto did have a different Wanda daughter, and our Wanda did have a different Magneto father. Yeah, welcome to the multiverse, by the way. Don't sweat it, I've done all the mining off camera for you. Further cementing him in my mind as the Giga Chad Nito I knew he always was. Hi, how you doing? Wanda is going second because I'm going to use her as an example for how well this video could potentially age. I initially put Wanda in the can't expect to win them all tier, as even though she's been depicted as pregnant and with children, her partner, Vision, unlike Ultron, doesn't even have a leaky exhaust pipe, and so she had to conceive her children via a very dark magic. No conception, no misconception, she's going in the bottom tier. Things, however, could potentially change, as yesterday we got the Season 5 teaser trailers which soft confirmed that the devs are going to be exploring various ships within the community. including these two. I don't want to play with you anymore. To most people, this was a complete outrage and a shock, but to me, someone who's the funny kind of mentally ill, I saw this coming a mile away. Venom has been hitting on Scarlet Witch in every single character interaction they have ever since day one of this game. Up until now, she hasn't been biting, but something tells me that somewhere along the 19 inches, she'll change her mind. So, for now, she's going in the can't expect to win them all tier, but this is one of those characters I expect to change later down the road. Be sure to bully me into making a follow-up video if that does happen. Anyway, baseless transition, let's talk about my goat. I love the moon. I always have. Some of my favourite pictures of all time have the moon in them. My friends used to call me Moon Boy. That was for different reasons, actually. Anyway, Mark Spector, Jake Lockley, and Stephen Grant all sharing one body could complicate things depending on what personality is doing what. So for the characters that either have multiple personalities or a form change, we're going to go with the one body, one rule kind of deal. This does mean that if Magic is an incredibly studious member of society, and Darkchild is a then that would put Magic in the big win tier. Same logic applying to Moon Knight. Jake Lockley specifically has a daughter called Beatrice Alarain? AI Rane. This is in the Earth 616 timeline, so we're just going to count this as Moon Knight's child moving forward. Is she or her mother referenced in-game at all? No, they're not. Pay your damn child support, mate. And so with no further evidence to spare, Your Honour, I'm just gonna have to split the difference and put him in the yes but not in rivals tier. Let's take a look at Jean and Wolfie next, because I'm pretty sure these characters have a history. Jean, of course, being short for Jean Grey, and Wolfie being short for genetic reasons. So reading through their bios reveals a couple of interesting things, like apparently, according to Wolverine's description, this Black Widow is over 100 years old. I'm not joking, by the way, but it's Jean's description specifically making reference to her relationship with Cyclops, combined with the fact that we now have a wedding Cyclops plushie for her in-game, ultimately makes me think that if these two characters aren't married already, this is the route that the devs are going to go down. So what does that mean for Mr. FNAF Nights at Freddy's over here? He lets it crossed over, he's 2 showers away from 2099, and he walks like an old man pushing 60 and a fridge. But despite all of that, he has a conversation with Angela making reference to multiple children, even naming one of them. This is a pretty strange timeline we live in, huh? Who's in the mood for a palate cleanser? The Punisher's going in the big win tier, and we don't really need to discuss it very much. Anyone else who's a fan of the Punisher's character will know that after his family was unjustly killed by criminal gangs, he goes on to, and grasp this concept here, punish said criminal gangs. And like birds or something as well, I don't know. And of course, his family are mentioned in-game. And also, fun Punisher fact, on the house, of course, due to his logo being associated with police criminal gangs, he is one of the few Marvel characters that will never come to Fortnite. Yep. One of the few Marvel characters truly associated with guns and weaponry will never be able to crank 90s with Goku. Now, completely derailing here, if you're a Marvel Rivals fan, you probably clicked on this video for one reason. You're here to find out what is up with these two. Hope and Danger over here have long confused people without the ability to perform a simple 5-minute Google search as towards their relationship status. And so I'm happy to ease the burdens of said people by telling you that this Cloak and Dagger are most likely married. Now, I'm going to get a lot of hate from the lesbian Marvel Rivals community specifically for saying that, because apparently these two aren't married, they are, and I'm quoting here, sibling coded. Yeah, I guess by Alabaman logic they could be. This is, you know, completely ignoring the fact that they kissies and cuddles in emotes, and they kissies and cuddles in the plush charms, and oh yeah, they're married in their most recent comic run. Just for a heads up moving forward, any characters I can confirm are married in the Marvel Rivals universe will just be going in the Giga Chad tier regardless. But if you're unsatisfied with that answer, the 2018 run of Cloak and Dagger specifically has the pear become an apple, an orange become a kiwi, and a grapefruit become a slightly more used grapefruit. So all is okay that ends alright. And whilst we're on the topic of marriage actually, let's just get rid of Posh and Bex. Biggie and Baddie over here have a child in pretty much every timeline where they're married called Franklin Richards, who's kind of like the key to everything, and he's also incredibly overpowered, and I really do not want him added to the game. I'd rather have to deal with the hunter from Repo behind me every time I try to record audio for a video. Now, I don't think Franklin is actually referenced in Rivals yet, but I'm sure he will be in the future. Forgetting to include him in the game would be like going back in time and forgetting to kill Jared Leto. And until then, a married couple is a married couple. Okay. Never in my 10 years of teaching has a substitute left a note this bad. I've only ever seen the internet break 2 times in my life. The first time was when Steve was announced for Smash Brothers, and the second time was November 30th, otherwise known as the Squirrel Girl incident. Ever since her debut in 1991, Squirrel Girl's whole character has essentially been, what if we went on the craziest adventures possible and everything went right? She's been there and done that across most of the galaxy, and therefore she was one of the hardest characters to research for this video. So, love interests. There's a few of them. She had a crush crush on Speedball for a little bit, but that didn't really go anywhere. The much more interesting of the two is actually our very own Wolverine. In one of the Wolverine comics, it's strongly implied that these two characters have a relationship history. Until it was retconned. She did, however, still appear in Wolverine's greatest lustral fantasies, and this part wasn't retconned. Let's see what else is there. She had a roommate for a bit, or maybe still does. Nancy liked her, but I could find absolutely no evidence proving that Squirrel Girl liked her back, and so with all of this said, I think we're just dropping her into the loser tier. This is the character I am most confident I have gotten wrong. There's got to be something I've missed, but I'm past the point of caring. I crossed that long ago. Congratulations, you're a failure. Subscribe, by the way, because if I'm able to double my current subscriber count before the end of the year, I will set up the world's largest game of Pass the Parcel, where the central prize is £2 worth of Marvel Rivals credits and a couple of dead hookers. So if that's something you're interested in, let's see here. Actually, we haven't really done any Avengers yet. Let's get the big one out of the way first. So Captain America almost has 100 years of comic book history, first debuting in 1941. And so to save myself from scrounging through that as long as possible, I thought I'd take a look at his character description in-game first. And it turned up nothing. Then I thought I'd take a look at Emma's description, because I do know these characters share a history together in certain timelines. And likewise, there was also nothing. Onto the comics I went. The first thing that stood out to me is that in the Earth 616 timeline, Ian Rogers is the adopted son of Cap and Shaggy. Shaggy? Sharon Carter. With that not giving me the answer I needed, I continued digging until I came across a man called James Rogers from Earth 10943, and he is actually the son of Captain America and Black Widow in a world where everything goes a bit funky. And without him being referenced in-game, this is square enough information for me to put Captain America in the yes but not in rivals tier. And we're just going to throw Black Widow in there as well. Now, with his reputation as a billionaire playboy preceding him, I was fully prepared for there to be tons of references to Tony's shenanigans within his in-game text, and I was sufficiently whelmed, actually. Despite the fact that he has the most amount of character descriptions in-game, all of these texts are less exciting than modern-day Fortnite. Even though his mind is as sharp as a blade, his tongue is as sharp as a slightly longer blade, and he cleaves through broads like an even longer blade than the previous two mentioned. There is no reference to Tony getting up to anything in-game, but he is, at minimum, in the yes but not in rivals tier. The rest of this section is just dedicated to debating whether he should be slightly higher than that. In terms of finding definitive proof in-game, there is only really one interaction I think we can debate on.
Wealth, good looks, business acumen. We'd make quite the power couple.
Maybe. But what do you have that I don't, Emma?
Take another look. Do you really need to ask that, Tony?
Right. So, when's our first date again?
References to a date, combined with the fact that he only turned up to the Hellfire Gala to begin with because Emma was there, and well, Emma being Emma, makes me think I can squarely place him in the big win tier. Alright, fine, we'll talk about her. Here's a small list of things I'd rather do than give Emma Frost any limelight in my videos. Count my chickens before they hatch, burst a bubble, and jump a shark. Emma Frost's whole character is that she does business like a broken record. She messes about and, well, it's usually the other person who finds out, actually. Her situation here is quite similar to Tony's, in that there is no real evidence of her pushing the payload in-game, however, it's just such a big part of her character that they haven't really forgotten to include it. If you want to call these two guesstimation, you can, but I'm more than happy putting her in the big win tier. And just glancing at the roster here, I realised that the Human Torch is kind of identical to Tony and Emma as well. Again, playboy philanthropist. Is that it? I think so. But unlike Emma, he messes around, and he often finds out as well. I mean, there's even voice lines of him flirting with other characters in-game. He's the Marvel Rivals equivalent of an exploding milk jug. No outright mentioning of any supernovas within his descriptions or bios, but we know very well it's a big part of his character. Okay then, Adam Warlock. Don't care. Okay then, Psylocke. Now, this Psylocke is very interesting as, for the first time in this video, I've been able to nail down exactly which version of the character this one is. This Psylocke is called Psy from the Peach Momoko Demon Days comics, compared to the usual interpretation of the character, who is Elizabeth Braddock. Or Captain Britain, apparently. Yeah, turns out this one's British. It seems the reason why they went with Peach Momoko Psylocke specifically was because they wanted a more Asian representation of the character. Throughout time immemorial, Psylocks have come in many different shapes and sizes, actually that's a lie, they're all thin women. But they have changed race quite a bit. So I think going with a Japanese one was a pretty good choice. A few page flicks later, and I can confirm that this specific Psylocke is not a page flicker. Join your fellow no-skill DPS in the tier where you belong. And Adam, I guess he's just hanging out. Also, I know I'm supposed to make a yokai joke here, but I genuinely can't come up with one. Look at the joke notes on my Google Doc here for this video. You'll see I've got nothing written down other than just yokai joke. So I'm sorry to disappoint. Oh, you know, speaking of Psylocke actually, I wonder what Venom's up to. There's no correlation here, none at all. Venom has been confirmed to be about 19 inches on the slap. When he swings round, the sheer gallonage on that thing could impregnate all of us. And not just the men, but the women, and then the joke ends there. So from what I understand, symbiotes reproduce asexually, and therefore we're not actually going to be looking at his royal schmeatness here. Thanks to Season 3, however, we can confirm that Eddie Brock does at least exist underneath all of that gooiness. And he's got quite the history of children and marriage in the comics, so into the yes but not in rivals tier he goes. Yeah, I was running out of transitions. Here's the perfect recipe for making your average Daredevil. You start with 150 grams of law studies, 2 tablespoons of Hell's Kitchen, 75 grams of no parents, a sprinkling of badassery, and whisk in 2 fresh billy clubs. Now, that's where the recipe would normally end, as it would be sent to the oven to bake, but Nettie's decided to come along and add 200 pounds of china. Okay, so this is a difficult one, as Daredevil, aside from Jeff, is probably the closest thing this game has to an original character. After reading his descriptions, I learnt that he still was a lawyer in this universe, until he conquered some sort of demon beast which entitled him to become the leader of one of the 8 realms. So up until that point he was at least living a normal life. With this confirmation we can disregard the fact that he's mostly an original character and just turn to Matt Murdock's earlier life in the comics. And as a Daredevil fan, I already knew going into this, Matt has a very, very complex love life. The very, very short answer is that he's had multiple love interests, affairs, and I think divorces too. I'll be sure to link it down below if you're willing to read more into it. Hey, it's me, the guy making the video. Hope you're doing well. Did you know I like Mantis? Did you know that Mantis started off life in the comics as a Vietnamese prostitute? Both of those things are true, by the way. Mantis has to have gone on the wildest character journey I have ever seen in the entirety of comics. She was essentially someone's OC creation who made it into Marvel, and when said creator left to go make comics for DC, he literally just remade her there with a different skin color and name. Actual wild behavior. I guess the modern day equivalent of this would be the 6'7" kid abandoning the meme and trying to launch the new meme of 7'8", which I could actually see happening. These two characters are essentially different characters, but with the name and various other attributes still sticking, we've got to put her in the yes but not in rivals tier. What a weird Friday this is. Going from single minglers to family guys, Hawkeye has usually been depicted with some amount of wives or children under his elbows, so you can imagine my surprise when I found no reference to either of those things in game. No reference to families, no reference to guys. No, there's a few references to guys actually. This, combined with the whole shipping route that the rivals devs seem to be going down in the near future, ultimately makes me think that the relationship between him and Nat is probably going to be explored later. I wouldn't put it past these devs, you shouldn't put it past these devs, and neither should that random guy over there. Lucky there's a man who positively can do all the things that make us... Actually, no more makes me cry. My eyes are actually sealing shut reading all of this. I don't care. Go in that tier. Here's a list of things I'd rather do than read the comic history of Namor. Not repeat a joke for the 3rd time. You. Magic is just kind of a freak, and I really don't want to use that word, but there's no other way for me to describe it. She'll go for anything when the lights are on. She makes out with aliens, she makes out with bugs, and whilst she doesn't make out with bug aliens, she has made out with alien bugs. Look at this panel. This is a real panel from a real comic. It's... It's really funny, actually. So, magic is apparently pansexual, something I'd never really heard of, but to my dismay, Google is telling me has nothing to do with kitchenware, and if that means you get a free ticket to kissing aliens, then sign me down, because I don't want to do that, that's disgusting. She has a long history of getting down to do things, and so I think we can just put her in this tier and move on with our lives. Oh. Hello, handsome. So I'd like to just give a quick thank you to the guy who actually made this tier list, probably not expecting me to use it like this, but as I record this, today is the 13th of November, and I woke up this morning to start working on the video, and I found Gambit's handsome mug in the bottom left corner. We can put him in the big win tier just because we know the next season that drops in a day is going to be all about him and Rogue's marriage. You know what, whilst we're on the topic of that trailer actually, why don't we have a chat about this frame? These two characters have got to be the least popular characters in this game. Storm because she sucks, except for that one time she didn't, and Black Panther Panther because the people who play him suck. Unaware to me before researching for this video, but T'Challa and Storm actually have a very long history together in the comics. Loves, marriages, divorces, rekindlings of feelings, and like pet cats or something, I don't know. Our Black Panther in-game talks to Storm and mentions loving a different version of her from a different timeline, although it seems his feelings are still kicking around. I guess he really does love her in every timeline, huh? Wholesome 100 Reddit Chungus moment. Bringing us back to this panel with me not only thinking that the love of these two is going to be explored into a marriage in the future, but already might be as of the time of this video's upload. Now, I'm going to interrupt the video to take a minute's break because I have a few things to say moving forward. First of all, I just want to touch on how well this video is going to age. This video's research was concluded as of November 15th. Anything else added to the game after that is beyond my window of knowledge. What I'm saying is that in Season 7.5, if they decide to add the unholy love child between Spider-Man and Ultron, and you leave a comment being angry at me for not bringing it up, I'm not going to read it. The second thing I want to touch on is the research. There are going to be mistakes in this video. I hope we have all accepted that. As a non-comic book reader, researching an undocumented topic for a company that has been around since 1939 is not easy. I'm confident most of what I've said is correct, but if I've gotten something wrong, feel free to correct me down below and don't be a Spider-Man main about it. Good? We all good? Okay, let's move on. Now, I owe all of you an apology, as earlier on in the video I did a fake out tease for covering a very popular Marvel Rivals gal suffering from severe homophobia, and so the time has finally come to talk about Angela. I'm sorry, but every time I see this character, I can only think of that one multi-social media platform meltdown certain members of the aforementioned lesbian Marvel Rivals community had because someone drew a picture of Angela holding Daredevil up against the wall. If you didn't hear about this, go look it up, it's really funny. We're talking proper meltdown. The basis for this meltdown was the fact that Angela is a lesbian as she has a wife in the comics, which isn't even 100% true, as in her most recent comic run, Angela and Sarah have separated, and they've been this way since at least 2018. Talk about making your litter tray and pissing in it. Anyway, you know the deal, separated wife, not mentioned in game, all good is good. So remember that tier we made at the beginning of the video called It's a Draw that currently has no bitches in it? Yeah, this is where we're putting the remainder of the Asgardians. Remaining, not including Angela, because she's actually an original character to Marvel and isn't based off any one particular Norse god. You're really going to have to smell what I'm stepping in for this one, just follow my lead. So these characters aren't based off the ones from Norse mythology, they are the ones from Norse mythology. In Marvel lore, this is the same Loki who did it with a horse, those who know. Despite these characters being the actual Norse gods, obviously, in the Marvel Comics universe, things happened that didn't happen in Norse mythology. Yet Marvel's comic book history has become so intertwined with Norse mythology as we know it, that I genuinely can't tell fact from fiction. So here's what we're dealing with. We have three characters, all of which with two sets of history to them, one being Norse mythology and the other being Marvel's interpretation of that. And when you start to ask yourself questions on what's the best way to take money out of a bear's pockets, you probably just shouldn't to begin with. They're all going in the It's a Draw tier. This is giving me a big enough headache. I'm going for a nap. Wow, what a great nap. Crossing off two more cheeky chaps I know belong in the big win tier, Blade finds his way up here as his daughter, Brielle Brooks, is actually the one who posted the missing article we found in the Season 1 limited time event. Never tell me I haven't done my research. The Thing finds his way up here for a slightly different reason actually. In the comics, he's always been married to a blind woman called Alyssa, and whilst she isn't specifically referenced in game, she features in the fourth installment in the Marvel Rivals Unlimited comic series. Yes, this counts. No, we're not going to think about the biology. Rounding up the rest of our silly sausages, my first thought for Iron Fist when researching this video was who's that bebe? So this bebe is actually Angela's sister and has no relation to Iron Fist whatsoever really. And she was like kidnapped from hell or so. I don't care. A few researchy doodles later, and I think it's quite funny to say that Iron Fist is exactly like his mains. Now, I've put off covering Spider-Man for a while because it's never simple with this bastard. We're going to break our criteria slightly with Spider-Man, as I'm going to put him in the big win tier and I'm going to ask you to hear me out. Or leave, I guess. So this Spider-Man is indeed going out with MJ, that's all good and everything. However, from what I've understood, it's implied that these two live together in their home dimension, and sharing a roof with your girlfriend is basically the same thing as a marriage, except it's not soul-crushing. Going with this for our answer saves me from having to go through all of the Spider-Man comics, as if I did, we'd probably be here until Christmas. Speaking of actually, if it is Christmas when you're watching this now, Merry Christmas, and if the Grinch breaks in whilst you're watching, just kill him. Okay, so from what I understand, both Hulk and Banner have a long history of children in the comics, so we're gonna get them out of the way quickly, because they've got to go answer the door. Lads, I have something quite surprising to share with you. I don't think Bucky's tapped. I found many different comic books and story threads where he adopts children or takes on troubled kids as his own, but I don't think he has any biological kids in any timeline. Bucky, I'm so disappointed in you. I thought you were cool. Good chance I might have missed something here. Be sure to correct me down below if I have, but otherwise, yeah. I think I'm gonna need another nap after this. Yeah, I woke up early. For a penultimate special, 2 of our remaining characters both have children in the comics and have had various other instances of getting down to do things. Doctor Strange has a daughter called Sophia in the Earth 616 timeline, and then Star-Lord has a son called Rocket, named after Rocket, with a nice lady called Aradia. So, both the upsies, there goes these. And then there was one. A character I've already done 2 fake outs on throughout this entire video. You should never put it past me to take a joke as far as I can. Here's the list of things I will. So, Luna. What's the game? Well, it's probably a mobile game, as Luna Snow is the youngest member on our roster, having only been created in 2013 for a mobile game, but she would be popular enough to go on to feature in the comics. And oh look, there's her getting off with the green alien, who looks suspiciously like Beast Boy actually. There's also a couple accounts of her flirting with other characters in game, but since that's not really concrete enough, I think I'm fine putting her in the yes, but not in rivals tier. Wow, another outstanding piece of journalism from Bigquador. These are heights the BBC could only ever dream of achieving. If I've learnt anything from making this video, it's that I basically am Marvel Rivals. I double jump out of bed every morning just like Moon Knight, I teleport up the stairs just like Magic, and I throw up everything I eat just like Jeff. Other things I have are the posture of Scarlet Witch, the flexibility of your average Black Panther main, and the tits of Bucky. And until the day comes where Adam Warlock gets a tramp stamp of him kicking the balancing team squarely in the dick, my name's been Lon'qudor, it probably still is. And Disney is gonna make me do this until I'm 90. Bom 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 bom.